Alright, what's going on everyone? Welcome back for another video, and today we're doing something a little different. It is actually the 2-year anniversary of me owning my Miata, so we're gonna go back in time today. Hope you enjoy. So basically what I wanted to do was just like a little kind of story of how I came about getting the car in the first place. Throughout the video I'm gonna be posting pictures up so you can kind of look and just get a visualization of the story and follow it. We're gonna start off back when I was 16 years old and I got my first car right after I got my license. It was a Ford Taurus, and my Ford Taurus was a hand-me-down car and it was super grandma, but that was like, you know, the first car that I ever had, and I wanted to take a lot of pride in it. And ever since I had my first car, I've always been interested in modifying things and all that. Of course, back then I didn't have any money and a job that didn't really pay much at all. So modifications were basically like painting things and you know, I put like fog lights on it, and it was really, you know, a dumb car, to be totally honest. But you know, it was my car and it was different than everything else. And eventually that car's transmission basically exploded. It was not going to be fixed at all, and yeah, so we got rid of it. The mechanic who actually was going to fix it bought it because the car was, you know, not really worth that much money, and it would have cost more to fix than to sell. So we just got rid of it and called it good. Which brings me to my next car, my pride and joy at the time, my Kia Spectra. That was a 2009 car. It was brand new when we got it. We went to the dealership and I think it had 8 miles on it. And it wasn't cool either. It was a Kia, your sedan, your typical sedan, good gas mileage. I think at the time it was competing with the Corolla. So I mean, you can, if you think Corollas are cool, then maybe you think this car is cool, but it's, you know, whatever. Same thing. It, you know, wasn't anything special, but it was my car, and this is around the time where I started to make a little bit more money, and I wanted to get more involved with the car clubs and car groups around the area. So if you have a Kia, definitely look into this club called Street Kias. That's the place to be if you're into the KDM kind of cars. But yeah, so it was, you know, my car. It was the first manual car I had. I did all sorts of modifications to it. That transmission actually blew out too. Maybe it's a coincidence, maybe I just don't know how to drive or something, I don't know. But that transmission broke. We fixed it, it got back on the road, and then I started to take things a lot more seriously with the car. It went through coilovers, wheels, it had the header and exhaust. It had basically everything you could do to the Kia at the time with a very limited aftermarket for it. So yeah, that was my Kia. And long story short, I was driving it to a baseball game when, out of nowhere, the car never had rod knock, no ticking, no anything. It had over 100,000 miles. I think it was close to 150,000. The engine decided to explode and punched a hole in the side of the block, and that was that. So at that point, I had always wanted a Miata. My friends had one, and it was really cool to drive. I got to drive the NA, the NB, the NC. This was before the ND came out, so I had driven all of the generations, loved all of them really. And when the Kia blew up, I was relieved, but I was kind of sad at the same time. I was sad because I had put a lot of effort into the car, and you know, I had a lot of history with it. But at the same time, I knew I was going to be able to get what I really wanted, which was a Miata at the time. So that started a search to find my Miata. I went and looked at NAs and NBs and they were all great. We looked at a couple places that actually rebuilt them and sold them, but they were all pretty high mileage, and at the time I was driving 80 miles a day to and from work. So I didn't want to put a lot of miles on a car that already had a lot. I didn't want to go through the same process of having something go wrong with the engine and be out of a car. And we already had to move quickly because it was in the middle of the week and I had to work, and I couldn't be borrowing people's cars to get to and from work. So we searched around for a couple days and eventually ended up finding my Miata at a certified pre-owned Mazda dealership. It was like one of 3 or 4 that were actually available. It had 40,000 miles on it. It was, you know, pretty good condition, sport model, you know, everything that you would want in a Miata, just, you know, basic, no fancy stuff, 5-speed, you know, rag top, everything. It was perfect. So went to the dealership the next day after my mom actually found it. So we went and looked at it, kind of thought it over for a couple hours. It was gonna be, you know, my first car purchase all by myself, no cosign, none of that stuff. And I was making good money. I could afford it, so I was like, why not? Let's do it. So signed the papers, got the car, and that's pretty much how I got my Miata, is just cars. Every time I have to get a new car, it's because one of them explodes or has a catastrophic failure, something ridiculous. So I'm hoping with this car it doesn't happen, but time will tell. So it's been 2 years since I got my Miata now, and I only started making these videos within the last year or so on actually modifying it. But yeah, I mean, it's come a long way as well. You know, it looks a lot different than it did from the day I got it. It was really, really stock. So obviously that's with most cars when you buy them from a dealership, but it's gone through wheels, springs, sway bars, exhaust, all that stuff. So it's safe to say that with every car that I have, it's gonna go through some sort of transformation. It's been a really good 2 years. I've taken this car pretty much all over the place. It's driven to and from Dallas, to North Dallas, Denton. If you know the area, then you'll know that's kind of a drive. I think the second week I had the car, we actually drove it to the beach in Alabama. So that was really fun. Now the way the car is, I can't see myself driving it for more than 2 hours because it's really loud and it's kind of uncomfortable. But I love the car. I wouldn't change anything about it. It's not a super interesting story. It's just, I think it's funny that all the cars I had some sort of catastrophic failure when I got a new one. But yeah, that's kind of the story of how I got my Miata. Planning content has been difficult lately. We've actually been looking for a house to get a garage, which will help out with videos a lot. Still at an apartment, and we're kind of planning a wedding too, so that has been on the agenda. So I don't get a ton of time to shoot these videos, so that's why I'm kind of making just one in the parking lot of my work right now. But yeah, I appreciate you guys sticking around. Right now we're at 91 subscribers, so let's bump that up to 100. That'll be a really cool milestone. And we're also very close to 10,000 views for the channel, which would be really cool to achieve as well. I'd like to do something special for either 100 subscribers or 10,000 views, whichever one comes first. So it'd be really cool to kind of come up with something fun to do, some cool video to celebrate that. But yeah, so far it's been a big year, and I appreciate all of you who have been subscribing, all 91 of you. I hope you enjoy the videos, and leave your comments and leave your likes and spread the word, because I'm gonna, you know, step it up and keep making videos as time comes. I think things are just only going to get easier as time goes on, once I have a garage, all my own tool sets and things like that. So there's definitely more videos to come. The possibilities are really endless. So with that being said, give this video the thumbs up, leave your comments, and make sure to subscribe. I appreciate you watching, and stick around for the next one.